Now we're nearing the end of this module. There's just one important thing that is important to know about mobile apps built with Ionic. If you're building such a mobile app, as I mentioned, in the end what we get is our code, our Ionic app, with tools like Capacitor or Cordova, is made available as a mobile app for these native platforms, so for Android and iOS. And now we have two common ways of making that happen. We could compile our code to native code. So we could compile the code to Java for Android or to Objective-C or Swift for iOS. And compiling here especially talks about the templates. So a button, an Ion button we have in our template, could be converted into a real native button, or the alternative, we could wrap our web app into a web view. On native mobile apps, you can launch a web view in the application to host a web page inside of that app. You might know that from some apps like Twitter. If a person links some web page there and you tap it, you don't open your actual browser app and open the page there, but inside of Twitter, a built-in browser opens up. And this is not a browser developed by the Twitter guys, it's a so-called web view. It's in the end a special widget you can use in native app development that is a fully fledged browser that doesn't look like one, because you don't have a URL bar at the top and so on. It just is a full screen browser. And that is what Ionic uses. With tools like Capacitor or Cordova, you in the end get a mobile app shell that has such a web view in it, and also then has some capabilities of launching a simple web server running mobilely on the device that hosts your Ionic web app inside of that web view. And then Cordova and Capacitor, that's the cool thing, also give you a bridge, so to say, through which you can tap into real native device features from inside your web app. And that's the difference to a website running in a normal browser. There, this is not possible. In a Capacitor app, that is. So Ionic takes this approach of wrapping your app into a web view, no matter if you're using Capacitor or Cordova. Now that web view, as I mentioned, allows you to run your app, a normal web app, inside of a native app that renders this full screen browser. Now, you could say that this has to be slower than a compiled app where you work with the real native widgets. And technically that would be true. Such an app will be a little bit smaller because there is this extra wrapper and it is just a web page. But it is super important to stress here that modern devices are so fast and an Ionic app typically uses so little performance that you will absolutely not see any difference. And then you just have the advantage of being able to build a cross-platform app with almost no effort at all that looks and feels like a native app, that also is technically a native app, and where you can tap into all the native device features like the camera you might need, just that if you look under the hood, it's not really compiled down to a native mobile app, but instead it's wrapped into a native mobile app. But again, the performance difference will, in 99% of all cases, not matter, and I do mean it like this, not matter for you, and you just reap the benefits.